Appreciate that, and apologies for lateness. It's been one of those mornings. It's come to my attention that a fictitious email has been circulating with some allegations regarding myself that I'd like to put very clear on the record here. Record being I reside on 227 Porongahau Road. It's fully declared to council, and there's some suggestion that possibly there's water flowing over my land from Ruataniwha and that I may have a conflict. So in free and frank discussion, I'd like to declare quite firmly today, I do not have a conflict of interest in this area. I don't, and I never have. There are 430 odd property owners in the Ruataniwha footprint that are over the 20 hectares that are under discussions or have been contacted by the Ruataniwha, the HBRC investment team with the opportunity for Ruataniwha. I don't qualify in that. My residential address is declared and my interest is no greater than the thousands of people who live in Central Hawke's Bay and will be ultimately benefiting from Ruataniwha should it proceed. But just to have that on record, there is no conflict of interest. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Minor items. Minor items, not on the agenda. Shoot.
Manuka Research Partnership. And second one, local services. Use of local services.
Local purposes.
Services.
Oh, services, right. Okay. Any other Anzac Day? Anyone got any Anzac Day stories? No. I will talk about Wairoa on Anzac Day. Okay. Okay, righto. Well, there we go. Scott as well, righto. Okay. Let's get into decision items then, everyone. So, page 15, affixing of the Commons Seal. Mr. Drury, have you any comments here?
Not really, Mr. Chairman. The properties continue to be sold, and that's indicative of the interest rate being low and perhaps could even be lower.
Heading lower. Any discussion or comments on staff warrants? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Councillor Bevan.
Paul, ever since I've sat on this council, we've got monthly a report like this with a number of properties to be sold. Could you give us a summary of what the current status is? Some sort of an update? How many properties are now sold? How many are left? What the impact of that is on income streams and so forth for us?
So perhaps we could have that as another page at the next council meeting. That would suffice. Yeah. Okay. So warrants. Any Mr. Maxwell? You got anything to add about warrants? There. You happy with that? Further questions? Someone happy to move? Thank you, Councillor Scott. Seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Bevan. Discussion. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Right. Recommendations from the Corporate Strategic Committee. Do you have anything to add, Chairman Hewitt?
Okay, we had a really interesting Corporate and Strategic Committee meeting on Wednesday the 13th of April. As indicated here, we covered off some formalities with the local government elections, statement of intents for our Hawke's Bay Lass company and our investment company HBRC. Of the reports received, which are noted here, health and safety and public transport, the most interesting one was the Butcher report, which was an update of the Ruataniwha Water Storage Regional Economic Assessment. This was an info received updating previous reports that had been circulated in October 2012. It wasn't intended to be rewritten by any councillors here, But the key takeaways from the discussion were really around the economic benefits of Ruataniwha, the total footprint of the area that's now under irrigation has increased from 25,000 to 26,250 hectares. That's contributed to additional dam and distribution costs, so it's raised the project price to 294 million. One of the good news stories out of it was also the fact that construction timing has been revised from 4 down to 3 years, and we discussed the Port of Napier additional EBIT that will be expected to be going through the port, which is 2.5 million per annum per year, so that's up on 1.4 million, significant regional benefit. And the increase in jobs throughout the region is now predicted to be 3,580 jobs, with a regional GDP up to 380 million per annum. So overall, I think it was a really positive report, and it was one that did create a lot of interest around the table. So thank you.
Forecast probably more so than prediction, I would have thought. Okay, any questions on that paper? Councillor Belford.
I would just, given those comments, I would just note for the record that 4 members of the committee did vote against receiving the Butcher report.
What relevance does that have, Councillor?
Just noting it for the record, Mr. Chairman.
Well, it was recorded on the day, I would have thought.
Taking
now it's
questions,
recorded
aren't we,
in a
Mr.
public
Chair?
meeting.
Questions,
Public session.
Questions? Any questions?
My question related to 6.3. In accepting these recommendations, is this not the issue we're going to be discussing more fully in a later agenda item? So I just want to be sure that in accepting the recommendations, are we predetermining our discussion later in the agenda?
No.
Aren't we going to be?
So this is 16, 17?
Point 6, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, point 6.3. It talks about raising funds for not only investment, but also working capital.
So this is the SOI statement of intent for HBRC.
For HBRC, right.
Yeah,
And we're having I think,
Yeah,
pretty
no.
substantial discussion of that later on, are we not?
No, this one, for me, states the level of dividend. The papers coming through later in the meeting talk about HBRC's proposals of how they will fund it. So you've got a level and the funding. This is the level.
So until we take action later in this meeting, we have not, in fact, officially authorized HBRC to use borrowed funds for working capital.
This is council saying in the SOI that's the figure that we believe needs to be included. Later on, there can be a discussion of the proposals of how that's funded. They're two totally different discussions. You need a number. How is it funded?
Councillor Barker.
Could I rephrase Councillor Belford's note for the record? Question, was the report from Butcher unanimously received by the committee, or was there any division about it? And if there was a difference of opinion, a report, how was the voting carried out?
Minutes are unconfirmed.
Absolutely. It'll be confirmed in the minutes.
But that's not an answer.
Is there a real question?
No,
here
it's not.
somewhere? Okay, someone happy to move? You happy to move your report? Thank you. We have a seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Scott. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Oh, sorry, do you wish to speak? Getting ahead of myself here. No one wishes to speak? Put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. And contrary, no. Carried. Okay, now we have the author of the next paper. I think Mr. Redgrave's here. Good morning. Yes. And welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got, you all know Anne Redgrave, who is the Transport Manager, and with her, handing out the documents, is John Adams, while Megan's on extended leave.
Right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll take the document as read. John is handing out maps of some proposed route changes, so I'll just quickly talk you through those, but perhaps just to give a little bit of background. Last year we adopted our regional public transport plan, and in that we committed to investigating a number of service improvements. Now, some of those we have investigated. We'll bring a subsequent report on things that we don't think should proceed, but we have a time deadline to meet with the start of our new bus contract on the 1st of August. And so these are things that we would like to put in place. Just the handout, apologies, it was rather hastily scrabbled together, so it's not particularly well formatted, but just to give you an idea, on the front page we have our proposed Route 12 Express. The black line you'll see is what we currently do with Route 12. It's a fairly lengthy service, takes an hour to run, sometimes a little over an hour at peak times, and it has to turn. It goes out past EIT, Waiheke, and has to turn left onto the expressway and then right onto Pakawhai Road, coming into Hastings that way, ducking down to the hospital and then back into the centre of town. And what we're proposing is to run, and it's a little hard to see, but there's a red line under the black one, so run out to Taradale on the same route with probably limited stops, turn left onto Miani Road, come out onto the expressway, and then directly into the roundabout at Omahu Road and up to the hospital and then on into town. So that's that. That's the Route 12 proposal, which is...
Route 12 or Route...
Sorry, it's express service. It's still to be named. It'll probably have a different name, but it's our express on the sort of broad alignment of our current Route 12 services. In the inner, when you open up the handout, we have two maps there showing what we're proposing for the urban service in Hastings. Now, of course, we have quite extensive services out to Flaxmere, out to Havelock North as well, and we're proposing some minor improvements to those too. But this concerns route changes. We have currently 3 loops which are pretty poorly patronised at the best of times, and quite long and convoluted, and we're proposing to simplify the ones on the northern side of Hastings into one loop, bringing it back towards the park but then out again quickly, and thereby able to improve the frequency, because our Route 17 service currently only has 3 services a day. And we're trying to do that in a relatively cost-effective manner, but also think about where our current patronage is. We have a lot of school patronage on all our services except these ones, but if we can improve services here, particularly at peak times, we should be able to pick up some school use as well. So I'll just take any questions about the item.
Okay, Councillor Pipe. Thanks, Councillor Barker.
Yeah, thanks for the report. No, the suggestions that you're making here, I think, pretty sensible, actually. They seem to me anyway that way. Just a couple of points. When it talks in number 6, I think it is, on the express services, you're talking about the exact location still to be determined. How are you going to decide where those are? Do you have any sort of form of consultation with the users, or how is it done?
Through you, Mr. Chair, well, this is a new service, so we don't have any existing users, but we would pick the major, what we think would be the major stops, the ones that are well used on Route 12 currently, probably things like Mariwa shops, leaving here the health centre Mariwa shops, a couple of stops down Kennedy Road. What we're just trying to eliminate probably is every single stop, because that will make the service slow. Taradale, obviously, we're going to have, and we would look to have at least one new stop placed on Miani Road, because we don't currently have a bus service that goes down there.
Yeah. just seems to me as it's a use it or lose it option, isn't it, really, for these,
It is.
for the people in there? Sorry, Mr. Chair, just a couple of questions. When it talks about the marketing, actually, on page 21, there, number 26, your budgets cover the marketing, no problem?
Yes.
And the last question, I just want some clarification on number 31, point 31 that you made. The additional costs of the changes is relatively modest because the existing bus fleet is largely used.
Yes.
And I was just kind of scratching my head as to what the
Oh,
meaning
sorry,
was.
that it might sound a little confusing. We have a fleet which is, moved from one section of the network to the other at different times of the day, and we're able to bring buses in. For example, for the express services, we can pull buses in from other services to run those expresses. We can just do that for the express. The one where we potentially would need an extra bus, but that's been included in the cost, is if we do decide to run services at peak times for that new urban Hastings route to address the school use. We'll have to bring an extra bus in there, but that's included in that cost. So that's a sort of worst scenario cost. It could be less than that.
Good, thanks, Anne.
Further questions? Councillor Dick, do you have a question?
Well, a comment really. Traversing Miani Road on your new express route, that effectively will, if you can put a stop fairly close to the, well, say Guppy Road, that's going to pick up Taradale East,
Yes.
which really is just not sort of serviced at
Serviced
the
at
moment.
all.
Yeah, so that will be a good addition in my
Yep.
view.
Happy to move? Seconder for that? You can second that, Councillor Dick? Yeah, give that. Wish to speak?
Just to say, I think the new express service, the more direct route between Napier and Hastings, will be a significant improvement. I've had quite a lot of comments from people of the bus timetables, just current arrangements just far too long. It puts a lot of people off. It makes a much more reasonable thing. With the changes in Hastings, I think they're all good changes. Every change will take a while for people to get used to it. I think we're just going to have to, suffer it for a little while until people get used to the change. But I like the way that we are constantly adapting and modifying it to try and get the best outcome. So I think this is a really good iteration. I don't think it'll be the last we'll make, but all the reasons for this are good and compelling. And I think it's a really good paper. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Some good work being done, and congratulations to Anne and her staff.
Very good. Further comments? Summing up? No need. Right, we'll put the motion in. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. Thank you, Anne.
Thanks,
Well
Mr.
done.